Hey everybody, how's it going? It is LuffWeXD here running the entrance puzzle to the War Priest fight. So I'm going to stop just to explain the arena here, kind of what it looks like. So there's going to be that center pad in the middle and two Annihilator totems, one on the left and one on the right. Obviously somebody needs to stand on that totem so it doesn't wipe your fire team once the fight gets going. So you're going to split your fire team into two groups of three and split them up by putting one on the left and one on the right. Now I'm only going to talk about one side because this actually runs perfectly in parallel, so both sides will be doing the same thing at the same time. You're going to want to leave one player on that center pad, and then you're going to want to have two players heading towards that Annihilator totem. As they walk towards that area, there'll be a buff there, and they're going to run towards that totem once they get the buff, because in that room where the Annihilator totem is poisoned. So you need to stay in that buff so you stay alive. It's going to have a 30-second countdown, and when that timer hits 0, the buff is going to pass to the person with them. So let's go ahead and see how this looks so we can get more of an idea as it's happening. So there's that ball there that's going to give the player who grabs it a buff that will let them survive inside that poison room. It will be an aura effect so that other player can stand with them and survive as well. Once you grab that, that's going to initiate the puzzle. Now you're going to have to stand on this totem until that timer hits 0. When the other player gets here, he's going to stand in there as well. And when the timer hits 0, the buff holder is going to get Deathsinger's power, while the other player with him will obtain that buff. So think of the buff as a baton and you're running a constant relay race. When the player who gets Deathsinger's power obtains that, he will run to the center, where that center player is now on that pad, and stand on it to charge that pad by losing his Deathsinger's power. The player in the center will then run to the Annihilator totem, because you will always need two players on the Annihilator totem at a time, so that buff can transfer appropriately. Once you get to this pad, just let that Deathsinger's power slowly count down, and essentially think of this as you charging that pad, so you can obtain entrance to the War Priest fight. When the timer hits 0, you're going to go ahead and run back to that Annihilator totem, and the player whose timer just hit 0 is going to run to the center. Again, you're always going to be switching two players on the Annihilator totem at once and one player on that pad. Every single exchange, whenever somebody switches here, you're going to go ahead and see two knights spawn on a ledge above. These knights will ruin your day, so go ahead and kill them as quickly as possible before the other player gets to you, preferably. If you're the person standing here, wait for that timer to hit 0. They're going to get Deathsinger's power and head towards the middle, while that middle player is going to run towards you. Again, this runs in parallel, so the right side will be doing the exact same as the left. There's that knight there, so go ahead and take that out as fast as you can, and then go ahead and stand here and wait for your timer to hit 0. When that timer hits 0 and you see that you have Deathsinger's power, feel free to run towards that center and charge up that center pad. When you're on here, you're going to go ahead and see some wizards that spawn on the ledges above you. Be careful and take them out, because those are the enemies that will ruin your day in the center, like the knights do on the other side. The knights will show up every exchange, as well as the wizards. Whenever people get to that center pad, those wizards will go ahead and show up. If you're in the center, wait to see the other player start to run towards you, or he will call out when he has Deathsinger's power, and go ahead and switch sides. There's that knight. Two players on the Annihilator totem at a time, and one in the center is the way you want to do this. So again, if you think of this on a larger spectrum, because things will be running in parallel, you're going to have 4 players on the 2 Annihilator totems, and then 2 players in the center at all times. There's the buff transfer. Go ahead and kill the ads. They'll be constantly approaching you if you're on that Annihilator totem. In the center, you'll see a bunch of ads coming from the door. Feel free to thin them out. They will mostly ignore you, except for those wizards that spawn on the ledges above. You're going to keep doing this until that door is completely charged. If you mess up and the buff does not transfer successfully, the buff will simply go back to where it started, and you're going to need to grab it again. This can be a little difficult, so try your best to make sure that buff transfers before you run off. So as you can see, the perimeter of that door there is almost full, meaning we've almost completed this section. Make sure you have constant communication here. Be calling out your timer to your respective side. Make sure you know who's on what side so you're not calling out numbers and people are getting excited on the wrong side. It is okay if your cycles unsync. You don't have to be running it at the exact same time, but you will be running the same pattern. Once that perimeter fills up, you will be deemed worthy by the War Priest, and a chest will show up here on the center pad. Collect your loot and be ready to fight the War Priest.